All right, what's up, people? I got a big day today coming up. I got a big one. So, what's new since last time? I don't know. Let me see. I got this guy right here, 9.6 graded. Man, I had to tell you, Jim Lee, bro, you're a little bit harsh with them markers, bro. 9 times out of 10, when I get a Jim Lee autograph, I get a 9.6. Yep, always buy the Jim Lee variant. Let's go over here. I don't even know if this will come off right, but this is my, now this was only a 5-issue series, so this is the finale right here. It's got a wraparound cover, which you can essentially see the last Ronin, who, spoiler alert, if you follow the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know that that's Michelangelo, and he is the last surviving Mutant Ninja Turtle. And you see flashbacks of how the others died throughout the series. This is signed. My number 1 isn't signed. But yeah, so the idea of him fighting his brothers, as you can see, I mean, the glare is insane. It's not even a foil variant. I don't think it is. Not. But it just is glossy as fuck, dude. But yeah, so he basically has to confront the ghosts of his brothers, who are they're basically egging him on to finish the fight. And then over here, of my Absolute Batman, I got my number 1, Jim Lee variant. This one I just got. Absolute Batman number 9. That is the first appearance of Absolute Bane. To go along with, in sequence, which I've already shown, my Origin of Absolute Joker, first appearance. Go after the first appearances. Now, what do I have coming? Well, I'll have to go over here in this little hole. An Absolute Flash. I believe it's number 21. This one's going to be signed. It's not out yet. It's pre-order. And it's going to be the first appearance of the Absolute Reverse Flash, which, you know me, we got to give some props to my man, the Reverse Flash. New books? I don't really think so. I've already shown you all the new Wonder Woman shit. Yep. I think we're caught up on comic books. Oh, yeah. I got to show you. This is it right here. My Obsidian Scrying Mirror. Just for sense of scale. It's about as big as my palm. Small. Pure obsidian. And of course, I actually have a real crystal ball up there too. But don't try this at home, kids. Don't try this at home. So what we're looking at here is, we're looking at the works of Mr. Andrew Chumbley, God rest his soul. So this is, I would say, his magnum opus, his most important book to understanding him. And it's obviously the thickest. Don't ask about the plastic, dude. You wouldn't understand. So I want to say, if you want to own one, own this one. You can get it by PDF. I'm just not a PDF guy. Yeah, I think this is where you really get his system explained completely in a grimoire format. Now this is my favorite of Chumbley's works. This is Katub. Let me see the point right there. And this is my annotated copy. Let's see if I can get this open. You'll see that I have all kinds of marks in here, all kinds of stuff. And I even, up here, have appended my commentary. This is where I go into the analysis of the actual verse structure. Which you get to the actual thing, you can see the verse structure and the rhymes. And these follow certain patterns, you can see. I think I've already done videos on this. But this book, importantly, and I think you really have to recognize this, is separated into 2 parts. The first part is the poem itself, which is Katub, of course, right? And this is separated into chapters. Now you notice each chapter I've given my own title to. These are my titles. The numbers are his. Obviously, the text of the poem is his. But you'll notice a certain sequence here that goes all the way up through the end. Here, the final, which I call the gate. Now, this is a journey, This poem is a long journey. And the question is, who's doing the journey, and what is it all about? That's when you get into the second part, which is the commentary, and it's broken down into 10 sections. And the thing to understand about these 10 sections is they are progressive. So that when you start off with a simple attempt at a definition, and you progress through, step by step. You go 2, then 3. Now 5 is where you really start getting into it. And then as you get later and later, he'll start doing a lot of Kabbalah and Gematria and stuff like that. That's toward the end. That's toward number 10. Number 9, I think, primarily. But my focus is going to be on number 5, section 5 of Chumbli's commentary, and basically the concept of, how should I put this? You might want to call it tantric and or alchemical rending of non-duality. And one of the things that I think is most important to understand about non-duality is that is most often, if you've been through the traditions that expose you to this, and one of the section 5 there is where he starts getting into the Sufic, which is kind of like an offshoot of Shia Islam that were very mystical. And they had certain beliefs that, most Muslims would count as heretical, if not apostasy. But he's very heavily influenced by that tradition, and then he starts getting into the Yazidi tradition, and of course the peacock angel, Melik Taus, which is why the first, glyph that he puts in here is something called the peacock quill, which is a single quill from the peacock angel. He gets into the symbolism of that as well. And this is the quill, as you see, I know chapter 1, the quill. But this is also a metaphor for the idea of the quill imparting ink to a page, thus creating a poem. You're getting into did I finish that sentence? Most often when you're introduced to non-duality, it's done through an intense presentation of duality itself. So what happens is you're given this dual structure. The one I often go to is self versus world. There's an internal self and an external world, and that's kind of what we're dealing with. And so you have to take that fundamental dichotomy of consciousness and you have to analyze its constituent poles. And so there are many ways to do this, but so starting in that section 5, although it is kind of contained earlier on, is you have this concept of sexual union as, epitomizing or being an example of the way you take the two and then you combine that into one, and then, well, of course, in the physical world, you get 3. But in the spiritual world, you get non-duality. It's basically, there's a saying that the brightest light casts the darkest shadow. And so I think Chumbli's metaphysic is something along the lines of that everything that presents in the world presents in a positive way. It's like there's no such thing as a negative orange. You can have one orange, you can have one orange and a rotten orange, you can have 2 fresh oranges, but what you cannot have is -1 orange. It's not a real thing, it's not a physical thing. So everything that manifests in a positive sense in that way. And so what he needs to combine that with in this congress, which he's very sexual. You get into Azoete, he's very sexual in the way that his rituals and such. Always presented in a very sexual manner. And he'll get into that later in the commentary where he starts talking about Lilith and the true nature of Lilith, etc. Because when you combine the light and the darkness, then you get the non-duality. So enough on that. Psalter of Cain, which is not completely his. He had some help writing this. It was kind of like a working that was done by a few people. I didn't mark this one up too much. Again, color is all mine. When you see color in his book, okay. So you'll see, here's the contents. Frater ADK, that's him. Algos Abdul Karnain, something like that. It's a Quranic reference, actually, to, believe it or not, Alexander the Great. And then see each other, like AH, that's a different person. SI, that's a different person. These are all their initials to their magical names. Again, ADK, that's Chumbly. ADK is Chumbly. But you'll see that ADK is Chumbly. 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 So you'll see that he probably contributes about 40 to 45% in this volume. Now what this is it's kind of like an examination. It's a mythological examination of the figure of Cain, primarily as if you can take the concept of the scythe, the scythe, depending on how you pronounce it. It's that long piece of wood, and on the end it has that curved blade, and it's used for thrashing, or basically cutting down your fucking whatever needs cutting down. Just say wheat or something like that for food. And so since this was Cain's position, that you can see that the scythe is not only for use in agriculture, but it's also for use in killing people. And so, the concept of Cain as the first murderer, but also as the first, basically he had to crack the code. This is all mythological, by the way. He had to crack the code of basically like the difference between the man who just sees the lightning come down and it ignites a fire versus the man who's capable of doing that without the lightning. So that's kind of like a step. And I think that this focuses on that in different ways because, again, there's many authors to this, and they're only united by this concept of Cain as like the primordial, first real man. Like Adam doesn't count because he came from God. Cain was kind of like the first real man. And finally, The Rock has come back, and this is going to be not necessarily an unboxing because it's just wrap. I took the box off already. And this comes from Crossroads Books. Plug, I guess. I get most of my shit through Abe Books, ABE. But we'll go ahead and rip this fucker open. I'm not really sure. I don't know what this could be. I mean, the size, it's a little bit smaller. Oh, man. I'm a one-handed nightmare, dude. Kids, don't try this at home. Just open it, but then act like you're just now opening it. Okay. So let's see. I got a bookmark. Always good. Some kind of... Oh, we're seeing it. We're seeing what's going on over here. Oh, okay. It's a receipt. Okay, wow. I don't like the bind on this. I don't like the bind on this. Let me tell you why. Slipcase. Slipcase. I don't do slipcases. Okay, first published in the year 2001, the Grimoire of the Golden Toad was the first grimoire to treat specifically, and from personal account, the traditional East Anglian ritual called the Waters of the Moon, etc., etc., etc. Okay, great. I'm afraid we're going to have to get rid of our friend the Dust Jacket here. You're like, well, that's blasphemy, dude. Why would you do it like that? Well, see, because it has to fucking match the other ones. So we have green, we have black, red, and now blue, which I think this is more striking than whatever the fuck I threw on the floor was. Yeah, this guy, a dust jacket. Let me tell you what I do with dust jackets before I throw them away. I put them over here, and I have a little collection of dust jackets. Wonder Woman, Omniverse, Omnibus, Secret Wars Omnibus. That's a fucking dust jacket. Nigel Balaga, dust jacket. That book's over there. So first step, getting rid of the dust jacket. Of course, it's pretty much same level of quality, although it's a little mini-me. It's a little mini-me. Look, it doesn't measure up. Spine to spine, doesn't measure up. Oh, wait. Nope. Do I need to do some kind of geometrical analysis here? Because Psalter of Cain is a little thinner and a little taller than Qutb. I think Qutb and Azawadi are the same. Pretty sure. And then this guy, this little mini guy, is finally here. Now, you're probably thinking I'm going to open it up. No, sir, I am not. I have not opened this book yet. I already have a few books open. This returns here. Then we can go here. Again, it's interesting, but you have to understand it through. It calls itself a grimoire. I would say it's not. And I would say that Azoetia is definitely a grimoire, by the way. Azoetia, back in its rightful place. Chumley tends to call all of his books grimoires. Psalter of Cain. Kitab, I'm not sure if he does or not. I don't think he does, actually. He keeps calling it a poem, which is what it is. So, props to Chumley for understanding this is not a grimoire. However, this is the key part, especially with a book like Kitab, and this is why Liber AL works very well for this type of purpose too, is that you can take something like, for example, chapter 55, which I've labeled Purgatory. You can take that, again, oh yeah, that gets to my thing about the theory of sevens. And when there are, I believe, 4 8s, so this is an 8. What does that mean? That's the number of lines. It's the number of lines. So the whole thing is mostly a 7, except you do have the 8s. And I think there's like 4 or 5 of them. And there's another one. Well, at this rate, there's got to be, that's 3 right there. But why is the pattern break? So the significance of that, I really haven't delved into as of yet. I'm going to need to do some spacings. And, the thing is, so for example, this is how working goes for you to understand. You can see that I have made changes to this, meaning that corrections, if you will. Meaning I don't always get it right. So when I'm going through something, and these are the patterns, by the way. Most of them exist under one pattern. The regular one, the A, B, 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 A, or whatever. See, like the triple A's are a little bit rarer. But then that A, A, B, B, A. Yeah, that's the main one. A, A, B, B, A. Triple A, you see? Now this one is a shift. A, A, B, B, A, but then you shift in the 2 asterisks and make those A's as well. Then you get A, B, A, B, C, C, B. So you've inserted extra in here into the rhyme, right? Without making it 8. See, it's still 7. Anywho, yeah, I'm getting weird. This book will not be opened. Not at this point in time. You understand what I'm saying? That's how that works. Get your own copy. Now, I was fortunate enough to be able to, I didn't know that they had done this, because the last time I looked for it, they only had the original edition, which unsigned would probably run me $3 to $4K. That's too much for one book. Although, I have spent that much on a book before. Yeah, it's up here, behind the Mighty Thor. You can see, it's right there. That is my signed first edition Azoetia. This little guy up here, this is a Kitab. You can see it has a slipcase on. Now that's not a dust jacket, that's a slipcase. This is my Kitab, signed, unmarked. No, I mean, like, why would I do that? Those are collectibles. This is my working copy. But even my working copy, unsigned, but it's still first edition. Unsigned, probably about 200 to 300. So these aren't cheap things. Yeah, I think I got, yeah, because what they did was they put out a second printing. And like, Chumley was into like so the Azoetia that I have, the green, the Zoanon bind or whatever, he has an edition that looks just like that, except the front piece is different. Like the illustration on the front cover is different. And it's like 2 dragons instead of what's on there, which is like a glyph, I believe. And yeah, that one's worth like five grand or something like that. I don't even think it's signed. Might be signed, I forget. But always, like, if Jim Lee did a variant of Kitab, man, get it. Get the Jim Lee variant, is all I'm saying. But yeah, so this is my favorite Chumley so far. Still haven't gone into that guy. When you get some working into this out of the way, and I can close it up for a bit, focus over there. You know, do what you can do, right? Pick up your bookmarks, motherfucker. Anywho, long video, but it really was 2 for the price of 1. Kind of opened some doors, shut some other ones. Oh yeah.